Bill, so great to have you on this Lazy Construction podcast. How are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's your first time coming on the podcast. So typically what I like to do with first time guests is just give them a moment to share a little bit about their background and their company, and then we will go from there.
So, I come from a long line of people in the construction industry. My great grandfather came here from Sicily, worked as a laborer. My grandfather was a mason contractor. My dad was a general contractor. And as things progress, I went to architectural school. So that's how I got here. Spent about the first 10 years or so of my career working in a small firm in New Jersey. Made a move that happened to coincide with the 2008 financial meltdown a few years into it, which found me at Mancini Duffy, where the firm where I worked was acquired, and I was part of it and brought into New York. Didn't really want to work in New York City, had a small little office by my house, 10 minutes from home. I was able to go to all my kids' little functions when they were in elementary school and such, but found myself here. And about a year or so into it, met my business partner Christian, who was brought in to effect an ownership transition of the firm. We became friends very quickly. He asked if I was interested. I said yes. Took about 3 years or so for us to complete the ownership transition. About I want to say it was 2017, I think, is when we officially bought the firm. We purchased the firm. We were able to strategically grow it in several different ways through different business sectors, series of acquisitions we've made over the years. And so when we bought the firm, it was about 45, 50 people or so. Now we're about 140. We are still headquartered here in New York City. We have two offices in New Jersey. We have an office in Tampa. We have an office in Phoenix, one in Seattle, and we now have an office in West Palm Beach, Florida as well. So, and we're continuing to grow and expand. So we're that's kind of the quick little how we got from here to there.
Love it. And I'm down in Tampa area. I'm in St. Pete, so
Nice,
cool
nice,
to hear you have an office down here.
for sure.
Tell us about some of the projects that you typically work on. I know our audience would love to hear that. Let's assume that there is a portion that is just hearing about you for the first time. If there's anyone that already knows about you listening, just bear with us, but we'd love to hear that from you as well, Bill.
I'd be surprised if anybody knows me, but thank you for the flattery. So we work on when I first came to Mancini, they were primarily doing corporate interiors for financial services clients. And, the firm where I was previously also was in a similar boat. And in 2008, 2009, those firms didn't fare very well. So my background is more in a varied project type, diverse project type. So that's what we really set out to do. Mancini Duffy, like I said, 15 years ago, was primarily known as a New York City interiors firm. Certainly, we still do that. We do a great job at that, but we're also doing projects, a wide array of projects. We have an aviation practice that does work in airports all over the world. We have an industrial practice. We have a hospitality practice. We do a lot of high end. We do everything from super high end restaurants to restaurant rollouts. We have a life sciences practice. That does lab work and such. We have a healthcare practice that does a lot of different types of healthcare work, from doctors' offices to operating rooms to full service medical facilities. We have a residential practice that does everything from super high end, like way expensive homes where they never let me in, to to a lot of multifamily housing, the old, the kind of mixed use projects you see that are omnipresent everywhere. So we have, and I'm leaving out a bunch of stuff. We have a diverse project. The project that I spent the largest chunk of my career on is called TSX Broadway, which was a tower in Times Square, New York City, where we took the historical Palace Theater, demolished around it, kept a lot of the building, raised the theater up 30 feet in the air, and built a new tower and new retail space in the middle of Times Square. That was about a 7-year project that I was involved with. So gosh, more than 20 people here and many, many teams. I was just a little cog in the wheel of that. That's kind of the project, I guess, if you Googled Bill Mandara, aside from some weird music I put out on Spotify, that's probably what you would see, and I'm probably best known for.
What is it about those type of projects that or a project like that that really fires you up? Obviously, you had the historical aspect in there too. Two-part question. What is
Sure.
it about those projects that excites you? And then how do you even begin to tackle something like that?
I always get excited about something that's really challenging, and especially if there's something that not a lot of people have done before. It's pretty exciting to be the first or one of the first teams to do something. So that's super excited. It's funny, when I started working primarily in New York City in about 2011, I started doing a lot of these repositioning projects in Manhattan, and some of the outer boroughs as well. I had done a lot of them in New Jersey, but they were primarily a lot of, kind of maybe converting an industrial building into a school, or things like that on a much smaller scale. And they're cool because you get to go look and here's some crummy building from, the 70s that was sitting there, and now there's something that's functioning, and it was neat. But when you start doing it in New York City, it's a whole different set of circumstances because you're not dealing with a building from the 70s. You're dealing with potentially 100-year-old building, and there's so many gremlins hiding in there that no matter how well you survey, you Matterport the heck out of it and laser scan and do all the due diligence in the world, there's always things that come up and there's problems you have to solve. And I really do enjoy. I don't think anybody enjoys the whole stress of this thing came up and we have to fix it, and there's a lot of consequences. But I really do enjoy getting involved and getting to the bottom of it and coming up with a solution. Whether it's, we found this particular condition that nobody knew about, and what the heck do we do now, or things like that. So I think that those are the challenges. Is that, again, there's just gremlins hiding everywhere in these old buildings when you reposition them, and it's rewarding to get through those challenges, in particular as a team. When you have a really great team where the architect, the all the contractors and construction managers, the engineers, the owner, everybody's on the same page and rowing in the same direction. It's a lot of fun sometimes to just get in a room and figure out a problem.
What do you wish the other like stakeholders that you work with on these projects, right? What do you wish they understood more about what you and your team do? And this isn't like a knock on intelligence or anything like that, but there's always they're in their lane, you're in your lane. What do you wish they maybe knew a little more of that would help them understand, what you and your team are doing?
Yeah, listen, you're right. Everybody has their lane, and I don't think anybody's smarter or more important than anybody. I do wish that sometimes people understood a little bit that, how do I say this? I wish that architecture was a little less commoditized than it is. People tend to look at a fee. There are fees haven't changed in probably 20 years, which is what I remind people when they come to me and talk about inflation. Our fees don't get inflated, but I think that, we tend to get looked at. In a manner of cost, where they're not realizing that there's a value that's added, and not just architects. A lot of professional service firms, uh, professional service businesses, that it's not a commodity. You're not buying, you're not buying this bottle of water. It's not a thing. You're buying the knowledge that people have. You're buying their energy. You're buying their thought process and their help and their talent to come to a common goal. And I think that would be the thing I wish people would look at a little bit differently, because it is easier. Again, I was raised by contractors. I was raised by my dad, who would come home and dinner. I'd go to work with him all the time when I was a kid, even when I was in college. And I'd listen to him complain about architects, and they think they know everything. They show up in their Mercedes Benz and then they leave in their stupid suit, whatever. It's not really the case anymore. So I get it. But it's easier for a contractor to say that now this steel prices have gone up and we need to charge you more. Whereas for professional service firms, it's hard to do that. And we get lumped in and commoditized in a similar manner. I feel that there's a little more value could be placed on the knowledge and what we bring to the table and experience.
How do you see that fee structure? I know you said it really hasn't changed much over the years. Do you see it like the payment structure just evolving? Like, how so many different spaces right now are kind of going through some serious, like, I never thought that we would spend, like, how you're seeing with AI models now on a tier basis, right? Of like, charging you based on usage now, not just, do you think we'll start to see like a totally different payment structure for this space, or is the architecture space probably a similar pricing structure will stay in place?
I hope we do come up with a different structure. We, a lot of different firms charge on a, whether it's an hourly or monthly or a basis or a subscription basis. Every piece of software now has switched to a subscription basis. And I wonder if in the future professional services might be like a subscription where, not unlike your anything from your Netflix to your Adobe suite or anything you use, it's a subscription model where you get access to the knowledge of these people, their professional services as you need them, rather than saying this project is worth this much. It's maybe that's how it is.
And then if that were to happen, it allows you to actually take on more client. It's kind of, I always say, like almost like the Planet Fitness model. Like if everyone decided that has a Planet Fitness membership decided to go to the gym in one day,
Oh,
they're
they're
in
done.
big
They're
trouble.
cooked. They're cooked.
Yeah. But whenever subscription, it's not like everyone's going to be using that. You're starting to see it more with plumbing too, with like the plumbing subscription. It makes sense though. And then there's always those picks. So I could see something like that happening for this space. And then there's, if you have to do serious like additional work beyond the subscription, then it's like an add-on fee, right? That'd be cool.
Yeah, and I think that in a model like that, perhaps they would bring, and not just architects, construction managers as well. The most successful projects I've worked on have had an integrated team from day one, not the old model of design in a vacuum, put it out to bid, get three or four prices. Everybody freaks out because the budget isn't what it is, because architects don't know we don't know what things cost. We know whatever the last project, but we know how much it was in the last project, and that changes daily in the world we live in. So yeah, the more you can bring in an integrated team with all the players, all the stakeholders from day one, and everybody has a voice, the more successful project you're going to have. Again, every project I've had that has been a massive success has had all of those stakeholders at the table from day one with equal voices.
Over the years of doing this, is there any particular like funny story that comes to mind, or something? I know there's probably some moments that go through your head when I ask that, but I'm just curious. Are there any stories that you find yourself wanting to tell people that have happened over the years that you've been in this business that you are willing to share one with us today?
I mean, there's a million of them. I'm not sure how many of them I could repeat on the show. Wow. Trying to think of one that comes to mind, but you know, I would, I don't know if it's funny or not, but I would tell a story about earlier, about 12, yeah, about 10 years ago, actually, a gentleman who I had hired at the time, who now he's a principal here, and he's him and I actually have a pretty friendly relationship. Our families are friends, and but early on in his career, he was frustrated at a process on a project, and the client was being difficult. Some of the players were being difficult, and we had a car ride back, and we would always drive back in the car. And I've had a lot of conversations with people in my car while I drive too fast. I was saying, hey, listen, I've had experiences like this, and yeah, this person's difficult, and this is difficult, but if you pull through this and you're cool and you're not a jerk about it, and we get to a solution, there's a potential you could have a client for life here, even if you leave and go work somewhere else, and 10 years later we're still doing work on that project, and he's still leading that project through various other people who have came and went in that organization. So I think it's, a lot of it is about being cool. I mean, another story, I'll change the names to protect the innocent, was we had a project we were doing, and we had, shall I say, an overzealous designer who was very locked in on a particular aspect of the design, and the client really did not, they could not possibly care less about it. And when it came to the moment where that particular design element was going away, he got really, really upset and caused a bit of a scene, and stormed out. And, I smoothed things over and everything was okay. And when I went to him the next day and I was like, hey, man, first of all, not cool. Second of all, it's really not that deep. He actually stormed out and wouldn't talk to me for a while. So it's a lot of it's about your attitude. And I think that people like to work with, I don't want to say normal people, because that's probably not a PC thing to say anymore, but people want to work with people that they go out and have a beer with, or have dinner with, or go, and be cool with.
Especially if you have to spend a fair amount of time with them, you better like them and want to be around them, or good luck, right?
100%, 100%. Listen, there's a place for we all have them in our various professions. The people that walk in, whether it's on their in there with their little red carpet and come in and command a room and everybody's quiet while they talk and you're like, all right, phew, we can speak to. There's a place for folks like that, but I think that more people like working with someone they go out and hang out with. Again, you
100%.
spend a lot of time, and you're in our business, depending on what you're doing. Sometimes you're dealing with people who are building a new facility and their day-to-day job is to run that facility. It's not to build a facility. So now they're spending 6 to 12 months doing something that's not their primary job and not something they're not super familiar with. And the more you can make that a pleasant experience for them, the better. And the more you'll build relationships.
One or two more questions, Bill, before we wrap up here. What's next for the firm that you want to share? Anything exciting that you want to tell us in terms of what's next?
I mean, we're continuously growing. We're continuously looking to push the envelope for new and different ways to deliver projects. One thing I didn't talk about is that we have a completely different process we utilize to deliver projects. That a lot of it's based in AI, a lot of it's based in, pardon me, AR, a lot of it's based in VR. AI is coming for all of us, whether we like it or not. We're all going to be like Neo in the Matrix at some point, but we leverage it to keep the human aspect here. So we're growing. We are constantly looking at different practice areas, different markets, different locations, and it's a pretty exciting time.
I love it. Last question for you, Bill. What's a tool or software you wish existed in your day to day that doesn't yet?
Interesting question. I wish there was a tool that would, and maybe even us. I wish there was a tool that would translate a Revit model to be able to build seamlessly and be able to have building departments to provide approval, because I think it's like the dumbest thing in the world now. I mean, I'm still an AutoCAD guy. I don't really draft too much anymore, but I think it's crazy that we build these elaborate models. We walk our clients through them, and we have all these experience. And at the end of the day, we flatten them out into PDFs, or we flatten them out and put them on drawings the same way they did when they built the Chrysler Building. It's kind of nuts. We have all this technology, and at the end of the day, you know, we're just we're just doing the same darn thing. So I wish there was a way, and it will get there. We'll get there.
Yeah,
I know we have people in our firm that we have software developers on staff, and we're constantly looking at new and different things. And that would be my white whale, though, would be to just be, here's this Revit model, city, go approve it or give us your commentary, whatever. Contractor, just go build the thing.
I like it. Cool. Bill, I want to thank you so much for joining me on the podcast here today, sharing some thoughts. Let's definitely stay in touch. It would be great to have you come back
Right
on at
on.
some point, give us some updates. And yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.